Welcome back to another episode of the Unofficial Commentators podcast, hosted by 98j and yours truly, Paki. Today we have a great show. Today we're going to review our Week 4 standings and matchups for our League of Haters NFL Fantasy League, which was extremely exciting. And we also have, as always, our previews. But I'll let our buddy Jay give us the rundown of everything that we got going on today.
We gotta start working on some drops, man. The rundown.
I know, right?
Rundown.
I'm gonna bring that in. I'm gonna bring that in.
Yeah, man, it's slowly but surely we'll get in there. So another episode of the League of Haters podcast, and we're gonna go over awards, reviews, previews. Keep it simple, man. There's not much to say there. There is a specific focus this week, in particular with bye weeks, and we're going to touch on a lot of NFL injuries that have been kind of a deterring factor in the early weeks of NFL.
That's right, man. And these previews are probably going to be the most important ones because it's the first week with real actual buys that are going to affect people. So right now is where we would put one of the drops. Awards. Tell me what we got, Jay, for the awards for last week.
All right, so last week's top scorer was Victor Frankenstein. Last week he was Paki's Donuts Pallets, and then he changed it to something else during the week. Currently he's known as Everybody Hurts. Everybody Hurts. He scored 150.5 points, capped by Julio Jones' impressive 42 points in fantasy. The lowest score goes to OBJ Cobb Salad. He scored a disgusting 81.9 points. You deserve to be in the cellar with the record that you have. The 81.9 points was the lowest this week. The biggest blowout actually belongs to Everybody Hurts over Never Landry's Ranch.
Oh, that's me. Oh, my God. What a shame.
Everybody Hurts won by 42.5 points, only adding to the shame that was originally brought upon you by teams such as 136.3 to 88. The narrowest win this week goes to the Gotham City Rogues. They won by 12.6 points to overcome Brady's Girly Men. The favorable matchup actually goes to the Gotham City Rogues as well. They would have lost to 8 other teams. This is the one you call the Lucky Award.
It is
They would have
definitely
lost to 8
award.
other teams, but they just so happened to play one of the few teams that couldn't beat them this week. Top fantasy performer this week belongs to Everybody Hurts, and that award would go to Julio Jones, or as you call him, Julio Jones.
Yep,
42
Julio.
fantasy points, 12 catches, 300 yards on the dot, and 1 touchdown.
I'm not even
there
mad.
you go, my man. Those are our awards.
I'm not even mad that Julio Jones was on my opposing fantasy team because, you know, that's how my luck has been all year. I forgot to mention real quick, Jay, today I'm representing the Mets on our video edition of the podcast, I must say, thanks to the Mets playing in the wild card game against San Francisco today. So best of luck to them. All right, so straight up moving on to the recaps. What do we got, man?
Quick thing to mention before we get into these recaps is we're going to talk about all these teams. We picked teams last week to win.
Oh, yes.
And we actually started keeping count as of this week because we had a kind of a tumultuous start. And our score overall, I picked 2 winning teams, and you picked 1. So for whatever it's worth...
Yeah, I tried to skip through that because I only got 1. Shame on me.
For whatever it's worth, man, I even beat you in that. So there you have it.
And can you believe that the one that I actually got right was Gary? And he was asking, like, who picked me? I'm like, there you go. It was Gary.
I'll pick him again this week. Maybe he'll appreciate it.
I'm going to pick him every week.
Listen, we're wasting too much time talking about Gary. Who cares? Week number 4. We're going to start off with the matchup between the So Loyal Action Boss versus the Real City Butterflies. In this one, So Loyal Action Boss actually took the game, winning by 130 points to 105 points. Give me a quick rundown on what you saw from the Real City Butterflies, Paki.
All right, the Real City Butterflies, they took the loss on this one, going to 2-2 in the season. First thing I got to notice I got to note on this team is Ezekiel Elliott, man. I honestly wasn't really buying into the rookie. I don't like rookies in fantasy, especially rookie running backs. The hype was so big, but Ezekiel Elliott is bringing up the numbers, man. 22 fantasy points, carrying the load for this team. I loved it. The only crack on the team that you can actually make, I mean, I hate talking about bench players, but I do not understand why you would bench Steve Smith Sr. playing against a weak Oakland Raiders secondary. We've already seen what's happened there. So it's not a matter about the points that Steve Smith actually got. It's a matter of I don't agree with that benching. But besides that, I mean, good production from Demaryius Thomas, 18.4 points, solid fantasy week. Phillip Rivers was a little bit disappointing at 16.8 points. You would expect more from him versus New Orleans, but overall it all leads back to Ezekiel Elliott killing the 49ers.
All right, on the solo election boss side, they were led by Derek Carr with 23.8 fantasy points. Derek Carr is currently situated at number 3 of the highest quarterback ratings in fantasy football. So I guess his pick of taking him in the third round wasn't that crazy. Melvin Gordon is slowly growing on me. I haven't seen many of the Melvin Gordon games, but he had another fantasy standout game, 19 points from Melvin Gordon, and then just a lot of solid double-digit play. Emmanuel Sanders, Travis Kelce, Terrence Wentz, and Luke Kuechly all went for double digits. Solo election boss actually got to win this game, and he didn't even have to start a kicker. His kicker, Mason Crosby, was on a bye week. I guess he was holding on to see if he needed to replace him, and it wasn't necessary.
Bold move.
Yeah. So it was good enough for him to win this week. Next matchup we're going to cover is FIBA. I don't like saying this name on our recordings. I don't know if children are going to listen to this. And then we also have he faced off against Al Hadaki, best band from DR. I really enjoyed the trolling any darn way. It didn't really work out for Daryl. So what do you got there, Paki? The score, on this one, it ended 117.3 for FIBA, 292.8 for Al Hadaki.
Well, this was the only pick I actually got right. It's the advantages of having both Brandon Marshall and Eric Decker is that if you lose one, how Gary loses Eric Decker on this one, he reaps the rewards with Brandon Marshall, who gave him 17.9 points. Excellent outing from Brandon Marshall, who supposedly was hurt, and it went up against Seattle. I remember we mentioned it last week. It was a tough matchup, but you can't bench him. And there you go, 17.9 points on that side. Greg Olsen, who's finally giving up some faith for the tight ends in fantasy this year, because we also mentioned that last week. The tight ends are not being consistent this year. Greg Olsen is starting to come along. 18.6 points. It's a shame that FIBA lost Cam Newton to injury. He only got 15.6 points out of him, which is solid because it's more than of the opposing quarterback, Andy Dalton, on the other team. But overall, solid production, great production from the team. Frank Gore, 18 points as well. I mean, there's not much to say on this team besides that. Hopefully he'll get a replacement for Cam Newton this week. And I wanted to mention something briefly about this team, but at the moment I'm not remembering what it is, so I'll leave it up to you on the next one.
Probably the points from the kicker, because everything else just kind of seemed average on that end. On the side of Al Hadaki, best man from DR, Andy Dalton, I would have expected him having a higher score with all the passes that he threw to A.J. Green and even the scoring and the touchdowns. They won that game by a lot, but he only gave you 12.6 fantasy points. I tried to look into it and see if there was anything that would stand out to me in terms of scoring, but it didn't look crazy. What I did notice here is you got absolutely no production from your wide receivers. You decided to start a wide receiver at flex, and he gave you nothing. Golden Tate, Tavon Austin, Jermaine Kearse, all of them were duds.
Not big names anyways. Not big names anyways.
I mean, I thought Golden Tate was supposed to be the number one receiver without Calvin Johnson, and it looks like Marvin Jones is the one stepping up.
Mm-hmm.
Well, with that being said, you got good but not great production from Devontae Freeman, a fantastic game from Jordan Reed, but it's against Cleveland, so I don't know what that really says about Jordan Reed going forward the rest of the year. Your defense was not impressive except for maybe Josh Norman, but again, playing against Cleveland.
Jordan Reed is one of the coolest tight ends in fantasy and in real life when you watch him play. It's just every play that passes, I'm expecting the injury. So I don't expect him to play all 16 games. It's just a matter of time before he falls. That's his history, man, in football.
Well, he's consistently labeled as questionable, like he might not make it to the game. I don't know. Moving on to the next matchup, we got Week 2, 136.3 to 88 versus Jobeba Fortimal. You know what, bro? It was nice while it lasted. It was a funny joke. I think it's time you move on from that name. Week 2, 136.3. We get it. It was fun, but you're not going to face Paki again the rest of the week, so the rest of the season, rather. It's time to move on. I think that other option you gave us was a much better option for a fantasy football team.
Thank you, Jay. I appreciate it. Stop the bullying. Say no to bullying.
Oh, I didn't do that for you. I'm just tired of reading it.
I'm gonna take it for me.
On camera.
I don't care. I'm gonna take it for me.
All right. Well, tell me about Week 2, 136.3 to 88.
All right, man. Andrew Luck, 17.7 points was the leader on this team, and that's probably why this team lost this week. Andrew Luck is starting to be his performance is starting to become questionable now. He had a favorable matchup against Jacksonville. I know his O-line is horrible, but Andrew Luck is just not putting up the numbers you'd expect from him at this point, and it's starting to become a little worrisome. And when your top scorer is your quarterback at 17 points, it's very hard for you to win. LeGarrette Blount was shut out by Buffalo, New England in general, so he only gave you 7 points. Carlos Hyde was okay with 14 points, but besides that, DeAndre Hopkins is another guy who all of a sudden is not even performing in fantasy. I mean, I think he hasn't scored the last 3 weeks, only gave him 2.9 points. It starts to become a little bit of a headache for owners of DeAndre Hopkins. I wonder when you start to think if either you sell this guy or you keep him. I mean, I would honestly hold on to him, but I'm not convinced with the way Brock Osweiler is throwing the ball either. So I honestly don't know how long this slump will last for DeAndre Hopkins. In the meantime, when your top picks and your top players are not giving you the points they're supposed to, it's going to be hard for you to win, man, and that's exactly what happened. Once again, I hate bringing up the bench players, but Michael Crabtree, 30.3 points on the bench. Matt Ryan, 35.5 points on the bench. Those hurt. I do get why you benched him, though. I just mentioned it because it's so many points it hurts. But I do get why you sat Michael Crabtree versus a good Baltimore's defense, and I understand about Matt Ryan versus Carolina. So it's not your fault. I just thought I'd mention it because that's my way to bully you.
How many teams are there in the NFL, Paki?
32.
The Ravens are currently ranked 20th against the pass. I don't know what you consider good, but I would have started against Baltimore.
That's probably now after Derek Carr threw 4 touchdown passes on them this week. But before that, they were pretty good defense, man.
Not really.
Not really, yeah. Well, look up the scores. I mean, they're considered a very good defense.
Well, in terms of fantasy points, they gave up 35 the week before that and 34 the week before that, and then 10 the week before that, but that was against Buffalo, who doesn't really have that many wide receivers to throw to. So I would have started Crabtree. I mean, considering your options, I kind of understand why you didn't. I mean, it looked like more favorable matchups, but...
Yeah, I mean, he has DeAndre Hopkins, Jeremy Maclin versus Pittsburgh, which was supposed to be a shootout, but it was only a shootout on one side, and Travis Benjamin versus New Orleans. I get why he would bench Michael Crabtree. I can't blame him on this one, but it still hurts.
I guess you're right. So, on the Jobeba Fortimal side, Kirk Cousins, wow. Him making an appearance in the starting. Well, that's because Aaron Rodgers was on a bye week. Average pedestrian performance from Matt Forte after he was looking like the best running back in football, both real life and fantasy. He only gave you 5.3 fantasy points. Isaiah Crowell, another really big game. And probably the biggest game right after Julio Jones in terms of receivers has to be A.J. Green. He totally dominated Miami. That's right. You pretty much won this game right out of the gate. You did falter, though. Julian Edelman, 1.2 fantasy points. Kobe Fleener, 3.4. Kobe Fleener coming back to earth. In a game where
I said it last week,
scored,
Kobe Fleener was coming back.
Yep, he came back to earth. But then again, his other option was Jack Doyle, and he only scored 1.1 fantasy points. in a game where New England scored absolutely no NFL points, they had a chance to put some points on the board by way of a field goal, which Stephen Gostkowski missed. Nonetheless, you win this matchup 122.1 to 93.7. Not a lot to say here other than your stars showed up, and looks like Vasquez's stars didn't. I picked the wrong team this week.
So did I.
And moving forward.
And he won with a -1, mostly because Vasquez was so horrible. But he wasn't supposed to win.
Living vicariously through someone else's win. In the next matchup, we have Gotham City Rogues versus Brady's Girly Men. Start it off, man. Tell me about Gotham City Rogues.
Gotham City, come on, man. Gotham City Rogues. You got to give me a cool name, man. You got to give me something on fantasy. Now you got Le'Veon Bell, man. There's so many options with the last name Bell that you can use in fantasy. You're killing me here. And now he's back. He gives him 20.3 fantasy points. Le'Veon Bell looked by far like the best running back in football, even though he didn't score a touchdown. He had an awesome performance, both in real life and in fantasy. This guy is extremely explosive. It's all still there. I loved it. Very bold move starting Brian Hoyer. It paid off. He gave you 19.8 points. Not a whole bunch of points from a quarterback, but a solid production. That's a good production from a quarterback, especially from a guy you're starting after losing Ryan Fitzpatrick to suckiness, because you lost Ryan Fitzpatrick to suckiness. I mean, we're hoping he gets hurt the way he's playing. He's horrible. Well, I don't mean that seriously. I'm sorry. I don't want him to get hurt. I'm just talking fantasy-wise. But besides that, good overall production. TJ Yeldon, 12 points. Kelvin Benjamin, 11 points. And Zach Miller, a tight end that I wasn't very fond of because of his quarterback, gave you 10 points. So good combo there with Hoyer and Zach Miller. That's a way to win a matchup, my friend.
I actually think you said that because Hoyer doesn't have an incredible throwing arm, that Zach Miller was a good option. I don't want to talk about that team, though. They did what they did. This is one of the ones that I picked correctly. I thought when I first looked at it that they were a guarantee loss by starting Brian Hoyer, but it didn't turn out to be that bad. At least the matchup worked out. I think this is the second time that Brito goes against, his quarterback against the other quarterback side. He started Stafford. Stafford did not look great this week, 9.2 fantasy points, and that just kind of led the way. There was only 3 players here in double digits. One of them is the kicker. Just barely scratching double digits with Todd Gurley with 10.7 fantasy points and 11.7 from C.J. Anderson. This is the lucky award, quote unquote. A couple of more things would have broken your way, and you probably would have won this. I don't know if Snead is totally back to his healthy Snead self. Like after dominating the first couple of weeks, he's looked. He was injured and missed one, and now he was out there running some wind sprints, but he didn't really do much. I don't know why you decided to go Delaney Walker versus Houston, which is traditionally a good defense. They have good cornerbacks and so-so linebackers, and not started Hunter Henry. But let's not dwell on the past. The point is, I don't think any one of these combinations, or maybe one of these combinations, would have put you over the edge. But you didn't pick them because you're not a very good manager, and that's the end of that.
Very questionable decision to leave Hunter Henry against New Orleans on the bench. Very questionable.
This is kind of like a theme that we're driving, right? Like, play whoever plays against New Orleans. They have
I said that last
defense.
week. I said it in the podcast. The team with the most people against New Orleans is the team that's supposed to win.
You said it, man, and I agree with you. Apparently, Brito didn't think so.
Shame.
Well, moving on from this matchup, he lost 104.5 to 91.4. The next matchup we're going to cover is Amari 2600 versus OBJ Cobb Salad. I had OBJ Cobb Salad taking this one, but, man, there was a lot of letdowns. Tell me about OBJ Cobb Salad.
Oh, a lot of letdowns. I mean, starting off with Spencer Ware. I mean, a letdown fantasy-wise. He got the touches. In real life. I mean, 82 yards rushing, but after that he didn't get the score. I don't know what happened to Kansas City's offense. Was completely shut down by Pittsburgh. A darn shame. And we already know what's going on with Odell Beckham. It's all over everywhere. His attitude problem. He's a diva. He's a whiner. This and that. Well, he only gave you 3.8 fantasy points. Honestly, the way that Minnesota's defense is playing, I wouldn't expect much more than that from anybody that plays against these guys. I mean, wow, they're fast. I mean, Denver's defense is good. Like, you see them. They're fundamentally sound. They're good. But when you see Minnesota, it's like these people, everybody's fast. Everybody flies to the ball. That's something I haven't seen since when Seattle won the Super Bowl. I love that type of defense. Besides that, Eddie Royal, that's a very good pickup from the waivers. He's been there sitting there for like 3 weeks, giving up very, very good fantasy production, and nobody picked him up. I know I thought every week was going to be like, oh, it's just this week, and he keeps putting up the numbers. Now he gives you 20 points. You had the balls to pick him up. That's perfect, man. 20 points. That pretty much carried your team to 81.9 points. It's very unfortunate you didn't get production anywhere else. Charles Sims, 2.5. Already mentioned Odell Beckham. And you had absolutely nothing from your defense. Once again, you're going with a lot of pass rushers on defense. That's a hit-or-miss strategy. And clearly you missed on this one, man.
I tend to agree with you. Well, at the end of the Sunday night games, I saw that he still had like 3 players gone on Monday. I thought there was a chance to come back. The deficit, it looks big on paper, but I actually thought this was Odell Beckham's chance to score a touchdown, and he did not. On the other side, a few double-digit performances. Carson Palmer, Fozzie Whitaker, who finally showed signs of life. Allen Robinson, this is the one I want to talk about. If you were concerned about Allen Robinson, he finally shocked you. I guess playing in that hometown London air brought life back into him, but he got a lot of throws his way. Zach Brown, the Buffalo linebacker, this guy had himself a day, man. A sack. It looks like he had 18 total tackles. The week before that, he had 12 tackles. The week before that, he had 14 tackles.
Great
this
pickup.
Dude is a machine.
Wow, that's amazing. I just imagine how sore he wakes up the next day. Oh, man.
No, you got to be chemically imbalanced and wrong in the head to hit people that many times.
Wow.
But, yeah, that was pretty much your difference maker. Had you had like a normal performance from him, you still would have won because the other side was just so weak. But yeah, that is your biggest standout. That's your highest scorer. I'm glad to see regular production back from Allen Robinson. I'm starting to get concerned, man. I said it last week, and I'm saying it again about Amari Cooper. Matt Asiata, I guess you just picked him up because you really had no other choice. Listen to this stat line. 6 carries, 6 yards.
But he got the touchdown.
But he got the touchdown. And that overall, that's what matters at the end of the day.
Yeah.
You won 117.5 to 81.9, beating OBJ Cobb Salad. I thought that OBJ would have it this week since Amari, at the time of us doing the podcast, they didn't even have anyone starting at running back. And you know, these fill-ins, they did a good enough job, man. I mean, 21 points from the running back position. Mm-hmm. If you were just like divided by half, make it 11 for each side, you can't get any better than that, at least not this week. And you finally won a week where I don't have to consider you the lucky award.
This is how you win fantasy right here, man. He had some good pickups in the waiver for the running backs, Fozzie Whitaker, Matt Asiata, and look at that. They're paying off. That's how you win fantasy, man.
All right. Just want to mention Terrell Pryor showing consistent signs of scoring in fantasy. That looks pretty good. He wasn't the 27 that he had last week, but 12.5 is not bad. As long as you get double digits, you're pretty much on the right track to winning. Okay, so let's talk about our next matchup. This would be your matchup. It was the Michael's Neverlandry Ranch. I forget exactly what Victor named his team at the end of Sunday. Right now, it's everybody
Paki's Donuts Paradise, something like that, or Palace.
It was Paki's Donut Palace when we did the podcast, but I think all day Sunday it was a different name. All right, you actually get a chance to review your own score, man. Tell me how you did there.
Man, I lost. I'm 0-4. It's embarrassing. It's a shame. But, you know, like when you get hit so many times in the same place, it hurts. But after a while, you're just numb. Right now, I'm fantasy numb. And I don't feel that bad with my overall score because, I mean, 108 points is not even that bad for what I've been doing the weeks before. Dak Prescott, I went with him over Blake Bortles, and now Bortles outscores him. I actually got to pick up Carson Wentz, even though he was on a bye, so I'm expecting an improvement there. David Johnson keeps giving me double digits. Kristen Michael keeps giving me double digits. I just got to get something going on my wide receiver position. They didn't give me anything. Once again, injuries, man. David Burton, my defensive player, goes out. He's on IR. Thomas Davis, he gets out questionable before the game ends. And Dwayne Washington, on his second carry, messes up his ankle. So I know I could have gotten a lot more points if I had a little bit more health on my team. I definitely dropped all those guys, starting from scratch again like I do every week. And I'm hoping to have more luck the next week, man, with health. That's it.
Truth be told, I don't care how many vitamins you would have taken or how healthy you weren't going to reach 150 points.
True.
Victor's team, led by Julio Jones with the 42 points. This is well documented that he had an amazing game. Remember, this is half-point PPR, so the 13 catches helps. And, I know very few teams that would have beat one player scoring 42 points. That in itself is the amount of points that he beat you by. He won by 42.5, but would you have rather lost by a half a point or just get the blow out of the week?
I wish ESPN had a stat because I am willing to bet that every single fantasy owner in the world that had Julio Jones won this week. So that's why I'm saying I don't feel that bad. I'm just looking at my score. I'm trying not to look at my opponent's score. 42 points from a player is absurd. That's not going to happen to me every week, I hope.
I don't know, man, but you're kind of bringing that on. Nonetheless, man, this team has been characterized by its balance. Double digits from Jameis Winston, LaShawn McCoy, Mark Ingram, Julio Jones, T.Y. Hilton, and Jordan Howard, who was the hot waiver pick of the week. Eric Ebron doing what Eric Ebron does. He gives you 6.2 fantasy points. But there are some amazing fantasy performances from tight ends. And then everyone else is just kind of in this pool of 6.5 points every week.
Right.
You left 19.4 points from John Brown. I didn't know John Brown was even available on waivers, man. I kicked myself for missing on that one.
Me too.
19.4 points from John Brown.
I kicked myself because I saw it, and I was like, nah. It's a shame. I deserve to lose.
You are an idiot, bro, because you said yourself that you're, like, lacking in wide receiver. Why you wouldn't pick him up if you had the opportunity to is beyond me. Yeah, but moving on, there's not much to see here. It was a slaughter. It was a slaughterhouse. If you like seeing horror movies, you can look over the score in this matchup here. Jameis Winston did pretty decent against Denver. His stat line, actually not that great. He didn't throw a touchdown. He did throw 2 interceptions, but it was good enough for at least double digits fantasy points. We've already seen the likes of Ryan Fitzpatrick giving you negative numbers and zeros coming from Carson Palmer. So I'll take the 10 whenever I can get it. For as much balance as Victor has on his team, I would definitely try to upgrade that quarterback position.
Most definitely, man. He's going to need to because he doesn't have another backup besides Jameis Winston, and he's just throwing a lot of picks.
Spoiler alert, Jameis Winston is on bye week this week. Is he? No, he's not.
No, he's not.
That's next week. That's next week. Never mind. All right. Then let's go over the last matchup. That'd be mine, Pimpin' Ain't Breezy versus the EMCC Brawlers. EMCC Brawlers getting their first win of this fantasy season. Go ahead, man. Tell me how I did.
Well, similar to me, it's hard to beat 141 fantasy points. But you had a lot of underperformance. I mean, Latavius Murray, who turns out to be hurt now with a toe injury, apparently that's why he got so that's why he was so limited during the game, and they didn't say anything. 3.4 points. It's a shame also that Drew Brees underperformed so drastically. I mean, I did expect him to drop off when he's on the road, but not to 11 fantasy points. That's just crazy. As always, Antonio Brown came through with 20 points, but besides that, man. Oh, and Will Fuller, man, I've said it. This guy's a strong candidate for Rookie of the Year. Dak Prescott might get it because he's a quarterback, but Will Fuller should deserve this, man. He is amazing. But besides him and Antonio Brown, your two speedy guys, you got nothing else going, man. 10 points, 11 points overall from your running backs, 1.7 from Mercedes Lewis. I don't even know why you would start Mercedes Lewis. You need some help at tight end, man. You got 2 washed-out tight ends from Jacksonville. That's not a good combo. But besides that, I mean, there's not much to tell. You need to upgrade the tight end position. That should be your number one. Alshon Jeffrey, if he plays, he should be okay. I think he'll do better with Brian Hoyer. Brian Hoyer is probably going to be the starter even if Jay Cutler's healthy. So good for you on that one.
We had decided before that I really wasn't going to talk about the teams that were the road teams this week. Alshon Jeffrey, though, it's a continued trend with him, man. He only got 3 catches this week. I can't see the targets from where I'm at right now, but it's not looking good. It's like he'll show up for a catch or two first quarter, he'll get a few more garbage time, and it's like he doesn't exist second and third quarter.
Kevin White got hurt, so don't worry, he's going to get more targets.
Yeah, well, Kevin White got hurt this game, and all that ended up happening was, Brian Hoyer throwing a lot more to Eddie Royal and scoring touchdowns with Zach Miller. So,
come on, stay positive.
For whatever that's worth, the number one receiver here is worth nothing. On the other end, Omar scored about 100 points off 3 players. DeMarco Murray is an absolute fantasy beast, man. Whatever position we had Forte in as being the number one running back, I think that's really quickly getting usurped by DeMarco Murray. I mentioned this week that I don't see what all this talk is about Derrick Henry taking DeMarco Murray runs, or he's running better. He may be doing that in practice, but in the games, man, like where it counts, it's all DeMarco Murray. Practice?
Practice?
You talking about practice?
Well, DeMarco Murray had a job to lose, man, and he knew it, and he's not losing that job. The guy's he's balling out, so you're not going to bench a guy that's balling out. Nobody expected DeMarco Murray to play this good.
Well, he killed me this week to the tune of 24.9 points. Ben Roethlisberger came back to prove a point. Even when they were stomping out the Kansas City Chiefs, they kept him in the whole game. He scored 33.9 fantasy points. At one point, Omar was kind of edging to get the blowout of the week. It didn't work out that way for him, but it is what it is. Now, I guess I'll talk about that when I get to it. Poor Sean Jackson, poor performance from Rob Gronkowski, but this week it didn't matter. There was just so much from the 2 running back position, the quarterback, and your flex.
Jimmy
and
Graham
your
is
kicker
back.
For that matter.
Jimmy Graham is back.
Well, let's not overreact. 141 points to 104 points. EMCC Brawlers gets their first win of the fantasy season. All right, let's move on to Week 5. Let's shake off all those bad vibes from Week 4. Let's see, Paki, if we can finally get you on the correct side of the scoreboard, man.
Gotta loosen up for this week, man. Gotta get ready.
Light some incense or something, brother. You're not doing great right now.
I'm ready to win. I'm ready. I'm almost there. But what's the first matchup we're gonna go over, man?
We're going into Week 5, and while I load this up so we can talk about it, I just want to go ahead and one more time mention the teams that are going to be on bye week, and this is going to be a very significant portion or sample of teams. We have the Saints, the Seahawks, the Jags, and the Kansas City Chiefs all on bye weeks. I think that just about every team owns a player from one of these teams. Mm-hmm. Remember that the Thursday Night Football game is going to be Arizona versus San Francisco. On paper, maybe at the beginning of the season, that would have looked like a really good game. But injuries are going to make that a snoozer for Thursday night. And Monday night is going to all depend on whether or not Cam can make it to the game with him going through that concussion protocol. Let's start this week off by talking about FIBA. You know what that stands for versus the Real City Butterflies. The 3-1 FIBA, managed by Gary, is going up against the 2-2 Real City Butterflies. Give me your overview, man. What do you think of this matchup?
Real City Butterflies, first of all, Brandon Cooks and Doug Baldwin on bye week. 2 of your pretty obvious starting receivers, but luckily he has Demaryius Thomas going up against Atlanta. That should be an interesting matchup. And Steve Smith Sr., he's finally going with Steve Smith Sr., going up against Washington, who has a very banged-up secondary, so let's hope some good production from them there. I like the Phillip Rivers matchup versus Oakland as well. That's a great matchup. Oakland has been giving up a ton of points to quarterbacks. And if not a bunch of points, a bunch of throws. I mean, Joe Flacco had 52 attempts last week. Ezekiel Elliott versus Cincinnati. This is when Ezekiel Elliott really is going to start to get tested. This is by far the best defense they've faced all year. I'm really intrigued to see what's going to happen there. I have no idea what his production he's going to be.
Oh, dude, it's over.
What happened?
Sorry to cut you off. San Francisco 3-run home run in the top of the 9th.
Wow. I'm sorry.
It is. It's over for you, buddy.
I'm so sad right now.
Take the jersey off and stomp it.
No, man, I'm never going to stomp it. We're going to come back at the bottom of the 9th. But let's not lose track of this. Let me not lose focus. I'll check it back while you're talking. Shit. All right. As I was saying, this
Keep
is
your focus back. Come on, be professional.
This is Ezekiel Elliott's week, man. He has to ball out against Cincinnati. I do not like Kenyon Drake. I do not like anybody from Miami for that matter, except Jarvis Landry, who is the only guy that's getting the ball consistently. I love Kyle Rudolph. He's a fantasy tight end sleeper that came out of nowhere. So I honestly, besides the Kenyon Drake, I like the lineup. I like starting Shepard at the flex. I think this is a great lineup coming into a bye week. A week of buys, better said, and I expect some solid production from him.
All right, you done?
Yeah, go ahead, man. Give me FIBA, and then I'll give you my pick.
So the 3-1 FIBA, as per Gary's normal routine, he's not showing us who his starters are going to be. His bye weeks are affected by backup quarterback Alex Smith and Derek Johnson. He's a defensive player, linebacker for Kansas City. In any case, with Cam on a concussion and Alex Smith not playing, you have a big gaping hole over in the quarterback position. Your running backs, one of them didn't participate in practice, a supposed chest injury for Frank Gore. I just think they're trying to rest him. They're giving old man Gore a chance to, get his wits about him, but he did not participate in Wednesday's practice. Your other running back, who's your other running back? Oh, by the way, he picked up Derek Anderson to fill in for Cam Newton in the event that Cam isn't able to go. Even then, I don't think that Derek Anderson can probably give you the numbers that Cam Newton will. Not on the feet, maybe by throwing, but he might try to go long more. So that looks favorable maybe for like a Kelvin Benjamin. I'm not sure what that does for Greg Olsen. I'm not too positive there. Not too positive, meaning not that I'm not sure, like I don't know. I'm not too positive, and I don't think he's going to be able to match the production you normally get with Cam. Brandon Marshall, if he's on your team, if he's on two legs, you start him. Larry Fitzgerald against San Francisco should ball out, but then again, he will not be getting the ball thrown to him by Carson Palmer. Jordan Matthews at the flex against Detroit. Detroit has proven to be a really poor fantasy defense. They are currently 26 against the pass. For whatever that's worth, Carson Wentz coming off a bye week. If he decides to throw Jordan Matthews' way, this is definitely a player to start. Eric Decker is going to be out with a shoulder injury, probably the second most important injury to a wide receiver. If your legs are still working and you can't really move your arm because of shoulder limitation, I don't foresee Eric Decker being able to make it to the football field. So your running backs are just average. Your wide receivers, one of them is affected by a poor or injured quarterback, and the other one is having the ball thrown to him by Ryan Fitzpatrick. So I don't know what to say here except for I'm thinking that maybe this is the week to bet on Real City Butterflies coming off of a win.
That's right.
Sorry, of a loss last week.
I hate going against Gary, but I'm going with Real City Butterflies on this one, man.
Yeah, man. All right, so I guess we both have Real City Butterflies in this week. All right, next matchup I want to cover is going to be Michael's Neverland Ranch against the AMCC Brawlers. This pits a head coach versus a disgruntled former quarterback. The 0-4 Michael Never Landry Ranch versus the EMCC Brawlers, who finally got on the board by defeating me. Paki, tell me what I can expect from your team this week.
He's not a disgruntled quarterback. He's an injured quarterback, all right? What can you expect from this team, man? First of all, Carson Wentz is going to make his fantasy debut in the League of Haters. I picked him up from free agency, not from waivers. I sucked up to buy, and I'm starting him against Detroit. I'm hoping some good production there from my fantasy quarterbacks, which I have not gotten all year. David Johnson versus San Francisco with Navarro Bowman out. I expect David Johnson to probably give me over 20 points. I'm a little bit stuck at the second running back position because I got Kristen Michael on bye. But I'm sticking with Cameron Artis-Payne for now until I have more information on Dwayne Washington. Hopefully he'll get at least a score against Tampa Bay. Jarvis Landry versus Tennessee. I like the matchup. Tyrell Williams versus Oakland. I like that matchup. Dwayne Allen. I do not like Dwayne Allen, but there's absolutely nothing else for me to pick at tight end. That's what I got against Chicago. I had to go in the flex with wide receiver Robert Woods. Sammy Watkins backup. Of course, I got Keenan Allen's backup because I had Keenan Allen. I have Sammy Watkins backup because I had Sammy Watkins. I have Amir Abdullah's backup. I have Rashad Jennings backup because all of these are guys that I have and I have their backup. So hopefully Rashad Jennings is healthy for Sunday and I'll start him in at my second running back.
It's looking very dim for Rashad Jennings. He still has that thumb issue.
Yeah, I know. But that's pretty much. Oh, I got some new defensive players. 2 Raiders, Corey James and Carl Joseph, the 2 rookies that are starting on defense. They're giving pretty good fantasy points. I'm hoping to get something better out of them.
Raider talk is so boring. All right, anyway.
Hater.
Well, in the League of Haters, you have a team of backups, so what do we do about that? All right, EMCC Brawlers. It looks like he hasn't updated his team, and he's going to have to dig into the free agent pool to try to find some starters for this week. Rob Gronkowski is questionable, but this might actually be the week he comes back. He has a favorable matchup against Cleveland, and he's getting Tom Brady. I heard an interesting stat about Rob Gronkowski. Of all the touchdowns that he scored over his career, I think only one of them, maybe 2 of them, have been thrown to him by a quarterback other than Tom Brady. So guess who comes back this week?
Yeah, man, I'm
straight off vacationing.
I wonder what's up with his hamstring, though. They're talking about his hamstring. I don't know.
Yeah, I heard some reports that it's questionable. He himself is making light of the situation, indicating that, people are hating him because they can't count on him in fantasy. And, not to mention the aforementioned Madden curse. Madden curse aside, though, Ben Roethlisberger is going against the New York Jets. The New York Jets, even though they have Revis Island, they're currently ranked 27 against quarterbacks. That is very, very bad. DeMarco Murray going against Miami. I don't know what Miami can do right. They can't tackle. They can't throw. They can't run. They can't protect their quarterback. Their quarterback can't read. Oh, my God, this is terrible. DeMarco Murray should have a field day. Matt Jones, field day last week, and it doesn't look to get any better. It doesn't seem like it's going to be able to stop him. He's going up against Baltimore. I like that matchup. Deshaun Jackson, another player from Washington. He had a really poor week last week. I didn't see the game, sorry to say. I didn't really see much of the highlights. It was just a quiet day for him.
Not many people saw Washington versus Cleveland, bro. Don't worry. You weren't the only one.
You know what? I don't feel that bad. These are the players who I would expect will give you the most consistent performances. Arian Foster does not look like he's going to come back this week. It's looking really poor, the potential of him coming back. Jeremy Langford is actually going to be out for his first week of rehab, and it's potentially a 4 to 6 week injury. You just picked up Jeremy Langford. I don't know how long you're going to use that bench spot up there. You don't have Chris Ivory or Jimmy Graham this week, so your only option at tight end is going to be Gronkowski. Like I said, he's going to have to dig into the free agent pool and find some starters. Kevin White is droppable. He's IR. By the time that he gets back on the football field, it'll be the next fantasy season, so there's no point in hanging in with him anymore. And that's pretty much all I got to say. Your backup quarterback is Trevor Siemian. There's no way he's starting over Ben Roethlisberger. Even with all the negative points, even with the fact that you're going to have to scramble to get all your positions filled, I still believe that, or rather, I'll still take the EMCC Brawler starters over the Michael Neverlandry Ranch backups. So
hater.
There is.
I'm picking myself. Screw it. I'm picking myself for this matchup. There's no way I'm going to lose to a team that has Kevin White that won't play, Rob Gronk that we don't know what's up with him, Des Bryant won't play, Aaron Foster won't play, Chris Ivory and Jimmy Graham are on bye, and Jeremy Langford won't play. I'm picking myself. I got this. My first win. I'm sorry, Omar. I got this. I'm penciling it down, and I already put in my vote.
Make sure you write it in pencil so you can erase it later.
Hater.
All right, next matchup we're going to talk about. Joel Vasquez's team is going up against, I like this one. If you didn't know, Joel Vasquez, Adeli, Dago, they belong to, even Donnie, sorry, I don't want to leave anybody out. They're part of this PPP. I'll let them explain to you what the PPP is at some other time. But Daryl has a very creative acronym now for PPP. Pájaros pa'l bote.
I didn't know that one. That's perfect.
I guess this is his audition to join the PPP. He's going up against Vasquez. I mean, if trolling names got you fantasy points, I think Daryl will be taking the cake. It's a real close competition between him and Victor.
Why hasn't he changed his team name yet? Oh my God.
Tell me about Vasquez's team.
All right, man, we got Andrew Luck, who, we're all hoping as football fans to have Andrew Luck come back to his 2014 form against Chicago is a great opportunity. LeGarrette Blount versus Cleveland, that's a great matchup. Carlos Hyde versus Arizona on a Thursday night on a short notice. I think Arizona's defense is going to come guns blazing because now they're without Carson Palmer. They have to step up their game if they want Arizona to win. They're 1-3. The defense is going to take it on themselves. Carlos Hyde is going to suffer. I don't like that matchup. DeAndre Hopkins is in a slump, and he's going to Minnesota, so I definitely don't like that matchup. Michael Crabtree versus San Diego, I love it. Martellus Bennett versus Cleveland, I love it with Tom Brady back. Travis Benjamin versus Oakland, I also love it. So, overall, the only bad matchups there are Hyde and DeAndre Hopkins. The defense is very hard to predict. You just go based on talent. I like their defensive players. I expect this team to go easily over 100 points, unlike they did last week.
And the Mets season is over.
Screw you, Jay.
San Francisco is celebrating on the field.
It's worth noticing that I'm actually missing the game to record this podcast, guys. So I'm a huge Mets fan. I am just streaming the game. And Jay's telling me what's going on just so I can record this. So, and there you go. Damn it!
I just got some actual tears.
I just got the notification that they lost.
Yep. Well, there's really nothing for me to say over on the Pájaros pa'l bote other than the name is awesome. I don't expect anything out of that team at all. I will say that Eli Manning is going up against a poor Green Bay defense. Green Bay is currently listed as 29 against the pass, and it's about damn time that Odell Beckham get his shit together. So Eli Manning throwing to Odell Beckham, I see a lot of fantasy points there, and the only other fantasy performer is Jordan Reed. But Jordan Reed is hit or miss, man. Let me just look at his stat line over the past couple of weeks. 9, 9, 7, and 23. He's projected to get 12 points. I don't expect anything too fantastic out of Jordan Reed. This week you're going to be without Marcus Peters, and you're going to be without Jermaine Kirk because they are on bye week. But other than that, nothing else to mention. And I could tease you more about the Mets losing. They made it farther than I expected. I thought they'd be out of the race by July. But that's neither here nor there. I'm going to go with Vasquez's team.
I already took my hats away from here. But, yeah, I'm going to be honest with you on this one, man. My logic and everything has to go with Vasquez on this one. But just because of that awesome team name, there's no way I'm going against Daryl. Daryl, I got you, bro. I got you. I'm going with you. I'm penciling it in. I'm going with the PPP. Dude, I'm still laughing, man. Oh,
They're
man.
both Giants fan, man. So whatever. I don't feel bad either way. I'm going with Vasquez this week.
Oh, man, this is perfect.
All right, man, let's move on to the next matchup. We're going to talk about So Loyal Action Boss versus Joe Bebo Fortimal. Action Boss, man, every time I bet against him, it comes back and bites me in the ass. I'm probably going to pick him no matter what the hell we decide at the end of this. But tell me what to expect from Action Boss this week.
All right, man, going down his roster, Derek Carr versus San Diego. Derek Carr, we already talked about how valuable he's been, and apparently he has been worth a third-round pick. I expect him to keep that going back home versus a San Diego team that's clearly struggling. I mean, they lost to New Orleans. Melvin Gordon versus Oakland. Melvin Gordon hasn't been playing that great, but with Danny Woodhead out and Keenan Allen out, he's getting a whole bunch of touches, so he's going to put up fantasy points no matter how bad he plays or what defense he's going to go up against. The fact that he's touching the ball over 20 times.
Well, that's not always true about every person with that opportunity, but Melvin Gordon is definitely doing the best he can with the opportunity. I've seen others that don't always, make the best of the chance they get.
No, I agree with that, but it's just the fact that they're using him for both running and passing, and there's not that many running backs anymore left in fantasy that are used for both running and passing situations. So he's getting the ball over 20 times in general. So obviously there's more opportunities for him to score, and it's not like Oakland is an elite defense right now anyways. So that's a good matchup. Tevin Coleman, Atlanta is the new Giovanni Bernard, Jeremy Hill running back duo with Coleman and Devontae Freeman. But they're going up against Denver, man. That's a tough defense. We said last week that running backs against Denver tend to get some good points because their pass rush is so strong, they just dunk it out to the running backs. That could apply for Tevin Coleman here. That's his only chance. Otherwise, it's a horrible matchup. Mike Evans versus Carolina. Well, we already saw that Carolina, their corners are horrible. Josh Norman said, "You get what you pay for." So Mike Evans, they're probably going to be. He said that. He said that, man. That's a beautiful quote to what happened to Carolina, and I wouldn't be surprised if they go a lot to Mike Evans. Same with Emmanuel Sanders versus Atlanta. Atlanta's defense is not that great, and I like Terrence West. After they let go of Justin Forsett, Terrence West versus Washington should also be good. So overall, great group of matchups for this team. I like it. It's hard for me to go against Soloyo, but I won't give my pick until you're done.
It's worth mentioning Travis Kelce's out on bye week, so we're using his backup, but starting tight end for Pittsburgh, Jesse James.
You're right.
And you're still holding on to Josh Gordon. I don't know for much longer. It hasn't hurt you this far, so maybe he's just there kind of like a good luck charm. In terms of bye week, Joe Bebo Fortimal is affected by not having Kobe Fleener, and Michael Thomas, who's emerged in the absence of sorts of Willie Snead. Craig Robertson, I don't even know who this is. A defensive player for the Saints.
All the Saints players he has on bye. He's a Saints fan.
Dude, but no. You didn't let me finish. A defensive player for the Saints. That's like an oxymoron. This is just like a turnstile with a jersey on.
Well, Craig Robertson gets a lot of tackles. It's just that he gets these tackles about 20 yards down the field, but he gets them. Still points.
I guess. He gets a lot of half tackles. He scores single-digit fantasy points with 11 tackles, so I guess he puts a hand on them and they fall.
Right.
Okay, well, star performance for this week. Expect Aaron Rodgers to have a big week against the New York Giants. New York Giants secondary is, outside of Janoris Jenkins, is not great. They're lacking in tackling at the linebackers. They're poor at safety, and they just overall look slow. If it's not, the youth of Jenkins and not the youth, rather, the experience of Jenkins and the youth of Eli Apple, you can count on their pass rush to a degree. And I don't think that Aaron Rodgers, is kind of a steady or just standstill quarterback. He can move around and still launch it 90 yards. Matt Forte against Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh is a defense that is exploitable. 26 versus the run. Matt Forte could get the better of this, but if if Ben Roethlisberger comes out playing like he did last week, then that'll probably cause Fitzpatrick to throw a lot more, and then you won't get the opportunity that you want from Matt Forte. Isaiah Crowell has come on in a big way, but they're playing against a really ramped-up New England defense, a New England defense that's going up against Cleveland, obviously, but not only that, it's a New England defense that needs to make up for the fact that last week the entire team didn't score a point.
And they get Rob Ninkovich back from suspension, so they should be better. A.J. Green against Dallas. This is definitely a standout. Julian Edelman going against Cleveland with Tom Brady back. And that's pretty much where it ends. I do want to mention Gostkowski always gets good opportunities. He's going against a poor team defense, and he gets a lot of chances to kick his field goals when Tom Brady's back. Ryan Matthews, I don't know what to expect out of Ryan Matthews. He looked horrible going into bye week. For some reason, he lost his starting kind of role, and all of a sudden, mid-game, they switched to like a committee. This was unseen. In a game that they're dominating, he didn't even get his chance. Maybe there was an injury. I'm having trouble remembering 2 weeks ago, but I don't know what to expect from him. It's kind of hit or miss with him. And I guess I already said, man, it's just two teams that are 3-3, and I'm done betting against Action Boss, man. I'm picking my cousin to win this one. Action Boss looking just like the Minnesota Vikings. He loses his star running back, and he's still 3-1, always finding a way to win. Is it fair to say that I think Joel's team looks better without all these Saints on the starting lineup? I think the lineup looks way better without the Saints. I mean, I'm not even joking. But definitely, man, I'm going with So Loyal on this one. Yeah, So Loyal should take this one. I like the matchups.
This will be a tight one, man. I like the matchups over on this other side, but they always find a way to win.
Yeah, I like the talent on Joel Fortiman's side. I like the matchups on So Loyal's side.
A.J. Green against Dallas, Edelman against Cleveland, Aaron Rodgers against the Giants. I like the matchups too. But whatever, man. This is gonna. You know what? I haven't been doing this year. I'm gonna label this the game of the week. I'm picking So Loyal. If they lose, it's probably gonna say it's because I picked them. But what are we gonna do?
I'm picking him too, man. So let him blame both of us.
Let him blame you. All right. The next matchup: OBJ Cobb Salad versus Brady Gurley Men. And do you really want to say something about this? I'm thinking that Brady Gurley Men's just going to win this, and that's that.
I'm going to go – well, I'm going to just mention briefly OBJ Cobb Salad, the fact that they're going with Sam Bradford. Sam Bradford has been playing great in real life. I just don't see the fantasy production in him yet. And I mean, Houston without J.J. Watt is a little bit weaker, obviously, but I just don't see the way that they play offense for Sam Bradford to light up the fantasy scoreboard. So I don't like that. Finally, praise the Lord, this guy is starting Giovanni Bernard and Jeremy Hill the same week. He's finally listening. And Jeremy Hill is questionable, but I expect him to play. It is against Dallas. One of these guys is going to give you a score. There's no way one of them is going to bust. I expect one to give you 15 plus, the other one to give you between 5 and 10 points. We don't know which one it will be, but that's a great way. Jerick McKinnon looked extremely explosive last week, and Houston has been a lot weaker against the run without J.J. Watt. I like that. And you already mentioned Odell Beckham with Eli Manning earlier, so Odell Beckham is definitely going to bounce back this week. After all the drama and commotion that's been going on. Dontrell Inman, it's an interesting pick. A lot of people are high on him. I'm just not very convinced. I know the Raiders are not a good defense, but I'm not convinced. I've seen this guy before. He's just so inconsistent. He drops so many balls. If he drops 2 or 3 passes in the first half, he's not going to get more looks. I really like Cameron Brate. There's so many team name opportunities with Cameron Brate. Come on, Ali, you can do this. Get a better name. It's against Carolina. Carolina, their defense, we already saw their secondary is very easy to break down. But if Thomas Davis actually plays, he's probably going to shut down Cameron Brate. He's the same with Kurt Coleman. These guys know how to cover tight ends. So I'm not convinced this week he's going to do much. Besides that, again, you're going with the pass rushers against Khalil Mack against San Diego. I expect Khalil Mack to ball out, yeah. And that's a little bit of the fan in me. But Danielle Hunter versus Houston and Zachary Orr, it's hit or miss, so let's see what happens with that. It's your turn, Jay. Yeah, I'm done, man. I'm done. Come on, man. When I'm quiet, I'm done.
I was just making sure, man. You started, babbling about Oakland Raiders, and I just kind of tune out.
You always say that.
This is going to be a theme, man. I'm going to keep doing this. Anyway, on the Brady Gurley men's side, we get Tom Brady back coming off the Flakegate. It's about time. Let's see whether we get a rusty Tom Brady or if he's coming back in full Tom Brady shape and getting right back into it. He's looked good. He's been practicing. He just can't play. So I expect a good performance out of him. And if there's ever a team you want to come back from suspension against, it's the Cleveland Browns.
Yep.
Todd Gurley's probably going to start against Buffalo. C.J. Anderson, he's probably going to start against Atlanta. I have to use probably because he does this thing where he doesn't freaking tell me who he's going to start, man, this jerk. Jamal Charles is on bye week. Willie Snead is on bye week as well. Matthew Stafford, he didn't have a favorable matchup. It doesn't matter. You have a better one with Tom Brady. Mike Wallace could probably see some time in your flex, considering that Marvin Jones is considered questionable. He had a hamstring injury that I believe he played through, and now it's a foot injury. And so he may not make it on the field. Therefore, I suggest you start Mike Wallace. And I say start Mike Wallace because even though Michael Floyd is probably a better option, on Thursday you will not have Carson Palmer starting for Arizona against San Francisco. With all that being said, even though I see a lot of opportunity to break through and get a win after losing 3 in a row from OBJ Cobb Salad, I have to go with a nemesis this week. I am picking Brady's Gurley men.
We got to do something about this, Jay, man, because we're agreeing too much. I'm going with Brady's Gurley men on that one, too.
I know exactly what we got to do. I got to let you pick first, you jerk. You're just taking my lead so you don't fall behind in the picking.
No, that's not true, man. I just don't like OBJ's team. I like the Gio Bernard and Jeremy Hill combo, but I don't really like the team overall. And I like OBJ, but Brady's Gurley, man, he looks way more consistent. Oh, and let me just throw in there, Quincy Enunwa wouldn't be a bad pick to start since Eric Decker's not in. He's been getting a lot of targets.
All right, Gotham City Rogues versus Everybody Ertz. You got the 2-2 Gotham City Rogues versus the 3-1 Everybody Ertz. Let me kick this one off since I've been letting you talk all this time. So, Everybody Ertz, he's doing the trolling. He has Julio Jones on the bench, LaShawn McCoy, T.Y. Hilton, Zach Ertz. All of these players should come back. Zach Ertz is coming back from a rib injury, but he's going up against Detroit. Detroit has looked kind of Swiss cheese-ish, especially when it comes to tight end production. They allowed the 2 touchdowns to Jack Doyle, 33 fantasy points in the first week, 20 fantasy points to Delaney Walker. They didn't allow more points against Green Bay, only because Green Bay did all their passing really to Jordy Nelson. And even Chicago with Zach Miller got points on him. I don't expect any different. I don't see the special talent that Zach Ertz has, but he has a good opportunity here. The Lions are currently ranked 31st in defense against the tight end. So of all the players that are on the bench, when it comes time to pick starters, I expect Zach Ertz to start. John Brown, if I were you, I wouldn't start him this week. I don't like John Brown on a Thursday game without Carson Palmer, even though I think most of his performances or most of his scoring last week came without Palmer. And your bye weeks are going to hinder you from using Mark Ingram and Allen Hurns.
I mean, I got to say, John Brown versus it's just the 49ers are horrible. He's going to get a couple of touches, but going on to Gotham City Rogues, Let me just throw this out there real quick, just off the top of my head. Saved by the Bell, Ring My Bell, Weeping Bells. So many options with the Bell name, man. Ryan Fitzpatrick, it's a bold move to start him, man. This guy, he's thrown 9 picks in his last 2 games. That's 9 interceptions, bro. That's a lot. That's -2. That's minus 18 points that this guy has taken away. I would look another way. Brian Hoyer's not a bad start. I mean, I'm not supposed to tell you who to start and who not to, but Brian Hoyer's not a bad start this week. Le'Veon Bell, I expect him to score this week, not just do great, but I expect him to score. Bilal Powell, he had a lot of touches in the passing game. Kelvin Benjamin versus Tampa Bay, he should be good. Stephon Diggs versus Houston, he's questionable, but I think he will play. We just don't know how he will be producing. Zach Miller, I expect him to do great things versus Indianapolis. Indianapolis is not very good defensively. And Jordy Nelson is your flex. Jordy Nelson is normally a number 1 receiver. He's your flex. That's a great guy for you to start. I personally love it. So my only problem with this starting lineup is the 2 Jets, Fitzpatrick and Bilal Powell. I think if you start Brian Hoyer, you have a better chance of winning this matchup.
So you didn't mention his bye week will leave him without T.J. Yeldon. T.J. Yeldon actually showed signs of life last week. By the way, it was against Indianapolis. So honestly, I would stack everyone against Indianapolis, everyone you got. You got Zach Miller, might as well stack him with Brian Hoyer.
Mm-hmm.
Outside of that, good matches, man. They look favorable from that perspective. And I just want to mention, for everyone who's listening, whether you're part of the league, listening to the podcast, watching the video, because we just like talking about football in general. If you weren't already aware, this questionable, it's replacing what probable used to be. There's no probable anymore.
Yeah.
So unless I see doubtful, I'm pretty sure they're going to play even though they're considered questionable. Doubtful is a different story. And, we stay up on current events and we look out for people and what their injuries are. I don't think that Stephon Diggs had any major injury that would, you would consider not playing him.
Yeah. No, he's starting him.
Yeah, so this is pretty much a starting team. Dude, I don't start Fitzpatrick until he shows me that he can be what he was. Even if I miss out on one good week, I would go Hoyer. Hoyer looked good last week. But that's really on you. Victor, I don't see that he's picked up another quarterback yet. So he's going with Jameis Winston against Carolina.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, I'm going to go with Gotham City Rogues in this matchup. And, Dago, since I'm picking you in this matchup, let me give you a tip. Latavius Murray might not play on Sunday. You have DeAndre Washington. That's your ticket to bench Bilal Powell. That's all I'm saying.
Well, I kind of agree with that. Even though that considered, I'm still going to go with Victor on this one. Everybody Ertz is going to take this one and move to 4-1.
Oh, I got Gotham City.
Well, we're on different sides of that coin.
Finally.
All right, sir. Let's close out this matchup. We got the 1-3 Pimpin' and Breezin' looking to get back on the winning track against the 3-1 Amari 2600. Amari 2600 has a bunch of wins, man. They're 3-1. They're like the Los Angeles Rams right now, getting wins but just kind of skating by on their good looks apparently, because they're not like blowing anybody out. Tell me what you see on my team, man. What do you think I can do better? And don't tell me tight ends. I already know they're weak.
Well, we already mentioned the tight ends, but you did get Richard Rodgers, which is kind of a hit or miss tight end. If he gets a touchdown, that's all you need from him. You're very affected by the bye week, man. You got Drew Brees on bye. You're Stucky Julius Thomas on bye. Telvin Smith, who was a DP animal, on bye, and you got Russell Wilson on bye. So it's very difficult, the fact that you have both quarterbacks on bye. I don't know what you're going to pick up to start on that side. So depending on what you pick up is going to have to do a lot with this matchup. Besides that, you're losing Latavius Murray. He might not start. You got Eddie Lacy and Duke Johnson. Eddie Lacy oh my God, we don't even know what to expect from this guy. He was supposed to lose weight and be the Eddie Lacy from his first year again, and I don't see it. I don't see the explosion. I hope after this bye week we see something a little bit more spicy out of him. Besides that, you have Antonio Brown. Doesn't matter who he plays. Antonio Brown's going to give you over 20 points. And Alshon Jeffrey, man, this is the week versus Indy. Indy has been very weak overall. So this is the week. So you need to get production from, well, you got Will Fuller starting versus Minnesota. I'm not even going to mention that. That's not good. This is the week that you're going to have to get a lot of production from your wide receivers. I don't see much from your running backs. Yeah, your tight end is a hit or miss. And I don't know who you're going to start at quarterback. There's more questions than answers to this team this week, man.
All of those are very good points. That being said, I have Amari 2600 is going to start Joe Flacco against Washington. Washington can be exploited. You're going to go with Fozzie Whitaker again this week. This week they're playing Monday night against Tampa Bay, so we're going to be watching that and crossing our fingers that he fumbles away the game. Matt Asiata, I just want to say 6 touches, 6 yards, but he got the touchdown. So
probably do it again.
If he manages to trip and fall into the end zone, that may be one that puts you over the edge. I'm not too crazy about those players or those matchups. Amari Cooper, man, he's scary, but he's scaring me in the sense where he's not producing the way you would have expected him to where you drafted him at. And going up against San Diego, this is kind of your moment to shine, to kind of get back on track. Terrell Pryor starting at wide receiver, and Dennis Pitta. Dennis Pitta, I keep hearing his name come up in podcasts and talking about his consistency. He had a really good game against Cleveland, but then again, who doesn't? And after that, he's been steadily declining, both in catches and yardage, to the tune of last week getting only 17 yards on 3 catches. I'm not expecting anything great from him. Allen Robinson, your first pick, at least your first-round pick, out on bye. Paul I can't even say this. Plusnewski?
Puzlesny.
I'll let you say that.
Paul Puzlesny.
So PP over here, he's going to be on a bye week as well. Bobby Wagner also on a bye week. That's 2 defensive players. And you have him here as a flex, but we all know he's your starting receiver. D'Angelo Williams might actually make it back on the field as your flex because you never know when he's going to score a touchdown. Of all the people who should not have been able to land, Kenneth Dixon, who was probably the most coveted waiver pickup this week.
I tried to get him.
He landed him. Yeah, he landed him. Donnie got him. I don't know. They say they're going to ease him into the offense, so what does easing him into the offense mean? Against Washington, you have an opportunity to maybe get more yards than if you were to start Matt Asiata. All of that being said, I'm currently being projected to win, and I don't even have a starting quarterback. I'll make that decision when the time comes. And for what it's worth, I believe that this will be the week that the ship gets righted, and I start my way up to week 7, 4-3. I am picking Pimpin' and Breezin' to win this game.
Man, I got to go with Amari 2600 on this one, just because of all the question marks on your team. I like your team. I just don't like this week, man. Your bye weeks are killing you this week. You should have traded Russell Wilson back to me, man. You would have had a quarterback. That's all I'm saying.
Fine.
You would have had a quarterback starting, but okay.
I'll be good.
Whatever floats your boat, buddy.
This is the thing I like about this bye week in particular. So when I remember maybe like 2011 or 12, right? I went out of my way to not pick too many players that had bye week on the same week, so that I would only lose one at a time. But that's what you do when you draft them. And as you play, people get injured. They start falling here and there on different weeks. Mm-hmm. By the time these bye weeks come, it doesn't really matter. Whatever you projected isn't important. And I ended up picking a rather talentless team just for the fact of, not duplicating on bye weeks. I kind of felt to myself like, man, if I were to lose this week, just lose this week, it's 1L. Then again, I didn't expect me to be 1-3. But if I were to lose this week,
Oh,
and
nice.
come back every week after that and just be like a strong team and get all these players back. I already had Eddie Lacy's bye week, right? I'm getting all of these same players plus all the ones that are currently out on bye. I'm thinking I'd be good for the rest of the weeks. Just sacrifice, you know.
Yeah. According to my
Take the
prediction,
L,
we're both going to be
sacrifice
1
the
and 4.
pawn, and then kind of come back. What's
We're
that?
both going to be, according to my prediction, we're both going to be 1 and 4 for next week's podcast. But I think that pretty much sums up all the previews we had, man, for this week. You have anything else to add, Jay?
Yeah, man. We're trying to make this a professional show, so just want to go and promote where you can find us. Where we have a YouTube channel now, the Unofficial Commentators. Please watch the video and subscribe. Also, you can find us on Podomatic, where we have the Unofficial Commentators podcast. So far, we've been doing these previews and recaps of the League of Haters Fantasy Football League. But pretty soon we're going to start our NBA Fantasy League, and you'll be able to find podcasts there. And the goal is to just be able to sit down and podcast about anything, you know, sports, TV, movies, just, you know, day-to-day stuff that we see and want to talk about. Have some invited guests, so on and so forth. Also, if you've liked what you've seen and what you've heard, please feel free to comment on Podomatic, comment over on the YouTube channel. And also, we have an email, the Unofficial Commentators. Actually, it's not but just unofficialcommentators@gmail.com. Go ahead and send us an email. Tell us, you know, what do you think we missed, how much we sucked, or how great you think we are, and what you think we can do better. This goes for everyone in the league and everyone just listening in the podcast and the YouTube worlds. We appreciate all your feedback. With that being said, good luck to everyone playing in Week 5, and see you Week 6.
On to the next one, fellas.